pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I don't see anybody here for open forum or public input. So we'll move to approve agenda, changes to agenda. And there are none.
No changes. So
Approve the agenda. So just a motion to approve.
moved.
I'll second.
Moved by Schoenfeld, second by Kroll to approve the agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, next is conflicts of interest, and I don't have any new ones listed. Next on the agenda is approved consent agenda. School board will discuss the minutes from the January meeting and pay claims submitted. They will also approve the resignation from Whitney Gronseth from her position as 4th through 8 New Elm Colony teacher effective at the end of the current school year. There are 9 basketball officials checks that need to be voided due to a duplication of checks. The check number 31782 for $153.52 for Jim Haskamp. Check number 31787 for $130 for Josh Kemp. Check number 31808 for $130 for Royce Wurzer. Check number 31791, $130 for Bob Malloy. Check number 31796, $130 for Tate Schoenfelder. Check number 31793 for $130 for Jordan Hodens. Check number 31788 for $179.98 to Steve Lieber. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
Check number 63582 for $64.95 to Sturdivants. Check number 63377 to Southpaw Enterprises for $1,083.
And the only one of those that will get reissued is the Sturdivants one. That check was lost in the mail.
Okay,
The other ones were my mistakes.
all right.
Duplicated.
All right, so A is approved January minutes, B is approved claims, C is approved resignation, and D is approved void checks. So I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Leischner, second by Schoenfelder to approve the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we'll move to information discussion staff reports, and we'll start with the high school principal report.
Good evening, everyone. I'll start with kind of some news with some of our education programs. You know, the spring is a really busy time. We've got a lot of state conferences coming up between FFA and FCCLA and FBLA in April. They all kind of go different places. Ed Rising already had theirs. Our Ed Rising, we had 8 students go out to an Ed Rising conference at Black Hills State University. Mrs. Kupka said it went really great. They took a bus with Harrisburg's charter bus, picked them up on the way, took them out. They got to see Mount Rushmore, spent a couple days on Black Hills State's campus. There was a career fair where all the universities that offer an education major in the state of South Dakota were there. And she said a couple good things. One, she loved how they stepped outside of their comfort zone and made some new friendships on that bus and throughout the whole weekend with other interested education majors throughout the state. So she thought that was some good networking. And then also, Alyssa Bartelt, one of our juniors, is applying for a state officer position, which sounds like she's got a pretty good shot of making it. So that'd be kind of a nice feather in the cap for the schools to have a state officer so early in our Ed Rising program. So pretty neat. I was talking to Mrs. Bartels about HOSA, and HOSA had to, a lot of people had to qualify for their second round of competitions for their different things, and it sounds like we had a whole bunch of people, quite a few more than she expected, that actually made it through. And so she was going to send me the list, didn't get done in time, but we had a really good showing in HOSA as well. So our programs are doing really well. Busy time. I know, like this week we've got FFA being gone for a couple, so I think there's a lot of FFA coming up. Like I said, the state, FCCLA, FBLA, and FFA all coming up soon. So that's kind of the report on that end. If you saw my email earlier, kind of the big thing I want to kind of lay out to you, obviously we vote on handbook changes in the summer, but with registration coming up, I wanted to share these with you so that way you can kind of see I'm moving forward with the hope that you guys are going to accept and be on board with these. If you're not, I'd like to know now so that I don't put us down the wrong path, so to speak. But, you know, obviously this is just more so it's in your head so you guys can ask any questions and be some of the first to know with some possible changes I'm looking to make. So I'll kind of explain what we're doing and why to the best of my ability, and then you can ask any questions at the end if you'd like. Starting with the schedule. Okay, so right here, my proposal is that we are going to change the daily schedule. Right now the way it works is you got an 8-period day, blue day and orange day. Blue day you'd have 4 instructional classes, and on orange day you'd have 3 instructional classes and a 90-minute SRB. My proposal is that rather than having one 90-minute SRB every other day, we are going to have a shorter SRB every single day. And so when you look at this, this is what the schedule would be whether it's an orange day or a blue day. Okay, every single day you'd have first block, second block, third block. What you're looking at there on that right column in the third block is essentially us trying to figure out the lunches that work with the elementary lunches. If you look, middle school they'd go to class for 55 minutes, take a break for lunch, and then come back for 30 minutes. That's what our high school currently does. It would become the middle school's part, and then the high school would go after. So basically high school would have third block and then have lunch between third block and SRB. Right after that 1 o'clock bell, when high school gets done with theirs, that's when SRB would start. It'd be 35 minutes long, followed by fourth block. We have had some discussions about possibly putting SRB at the end of the day too. What's really going to come down to is trying to fit the schedule and making it work with, what's really tricky is middle school band and chorus, about how to fit that in the schedule and make it work. And so where we put SRB will kind of be dependent on where band and chorus to go, because we're probably going to have our middle school band, chorus kiddos. They'd spend about 50 minutes in one and then 50 minutes in the other. So like that's going to bleed into some of their SRB, but that's kind of the thought there. My goal being is having SRB every day and for a shorter amount of time, and that would be a little bit more focused time that helps them stay on top of stuff on a daily basis. Another kind of perk of that is in fixing the SRB, because right now a 90-minute SRB is kind of long and it's not all very productive. And so trying to make that more focused, it's also going to open up an instructional block. Now rather than having 7 instructional blocks with a study hall, we now have 8 instructional blocks plus that. And so the goal there is that'll open up some opportunities for some kiddos to hopefully take some classes that maybe they weren't able to before. And so that's kind of going with that. Now with that said, because of the opening up an extra block and the opportunities it affords us, that's where you kind of start rolling into these changes that go along with it. The first one being this: if you're going to have 8 instructional blocks, I'm sorry, but a kid almost never is going to need 2 study halls, right? So the idea there is out of the 8 instructional blocks, they need to sign up for at least 7. You would hope that some kids are wanting to sign up for 8 classes because they still have the SRB every single day. But at minimum, I want them to be enrolled in 7 classes, right? Now, if you pass 7 classes every year, when you get done with high school, you possibly have 28 credits that you've passed, which would be awesome. Right now, our current number of credits you have to pass to graduate is 22. If you look across the state, there are quite a few schools that require 24 credits to graduate, and that's what I would like to move to, is us to require 24 credits to graduate instead of 22. Now that would not come into effect until this current set of 8th graders heading into high school. And, I don't want to try and move the need, or move the bar on the kids that are already in high school, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. But with these incoming 8th graders, that would be the first class that would require 24 credits to graduate. I would like to right away with next year, that's when we'd start to where it require you to sign up for 7 classes at the bare minimum of the 8 possible instructional blocks. When you're bumping up to that 24, the question then is what are you going to require with those extra 2 credits? And some things that we are looking to put in. One would be this: in the freshman year right now, they take a half semester of composition and grammar, and then a half semester of speech. And we feel it'd be very beneficial for our students to get a full year of composition and grammar, especially in that 9th grade year as they're entering high school. The ability to write and express yourself is paramount. And so to get a full year of practice and not just a half would be great. So we're going to extend English 9 is what we're going to call it, and rather than being the first semester of that, you would take English 9 all year plus speech sometime in your freshman or sophomore year. So that's why you see the 4.5 instead of 4, is because we are adding a semester of English 9 to get them some there. 2 things I want to add is required courses. Right now, employability is something we offer, but it's not something that's required. We want to require all students to take employability. We'd really like it to be in the junior year. In employability, that's where you do some goal setting, you write resumes, you do mock interviews. These are all skills that we feel they need as they enter their junior, senior year and getting near and near to the workforce. I've been in that classroom. I love all of the content. I feel it's something that we want just about every kid. We want every single kid to walk out the door having been a part of, and not just something that they could possibly be a part of. The capstone experience is something that we have to always offer. Right now we offer those internships like we talked about. There's 5 things that can be considered a capstone experience, and I'll kind of add that in a future one, but that would be internships, apprenticeships, senior projects, so on and so forth. But that would be something we would require in the senior year. It's a half credit, something you can do there. And then with the other half of a credit, we wanted to pick up an extra elective. So rather than it being 1.5 credits of elective, we changed that to 2. Oh, sorry, instead of 5.5, we changed it to 6. And with the, before it was in the approved CTE, it was 1, the 2, changing it to a full credit year, that would be that employability and capstone. So that kind of adds up to 24 like we want. So that's the goal there. Obviously, with the changing to, like if we're going to offer 24, then 6, 12, and 18 would be what classifies you as a, if you pass 6 credits, that's how you become a sophomore, 12 is a junior, 18 At the end here, this is more just cleaning up a couple things. With the graduation thing, you can kind of look at what we talked about at graduation. It's not that it was bad, it was just a little vague, and so I did some research in terms of maybe a better way to write the graduation portion of your policy. The one thing that did not exist was a policy on early graduation, and we feel like with the fact that now we're going to have some kiddos that they do it right. If somebody ever thought they wanted to be an early graduate, that's not something that we are going to encourage, and it's not something that we really want to become a norm. But we wanted to require that if somebody was going to do an early graduation, they have to submit a letter before the semester time of their junior year, full year in advance, letting us know what their intentions are. So that way somebody's not just sick of school in the middle of December of their senior year and say, I want out of here, I got enough credits. So this has got to be something that you've planned and have really thought about, and not just a whim of a decision. So this is something I would recommend we have on writing in policy, in writing on policy, and be good to go with. So with all that said, anything that you have questions on at first glance as you go through this?
Band and choir are split SRB now, right?
They are. So one goal is to get them out of the SRB time, right? So if you're in band and choir, you don't want to have to lose your SRB. So band and choir for the high school are now going to be their own standalone blocks. And so band would be in some block and choir would be in a different block, and they would not be SRB. The only kiddos that would be like, for example, either band or choir in middle school would be about half of the SRB, so that they get equal time every other day. But high school band and choir are now separated from SRB.
The capstone experience.
Yep.
Are you, excuse me, are you finding enough companies out here willing to facilitate that?
That's the hope. I think we got some work to do, and that's the nice thing about we're not requiring it for another 3 years. That gives us 3 years to kind of build our experiences with the local ones. In terms of, you'd like a lot of those to be internships, that'd be the goal. But like I said, there's some other things with that capstone experience you can do. Where, like for example, we have a senior that has bought a semi truck. He is doing loads all the time. That's, to me, that's a youth entrepreneurship is what he's doing. He's really trying to start a business as he's a senior. That would work just as well. And so, and you'll get some people that want to do a project that would improve the community. And so, if they can't find an internship in whatever they are interested in, there's other options. The other thing would be is by upping this credit limit to 7. There's the hope that maybe by the time they're seniors, there would be room for them to maybe use a 2-block window. So if they had to say drive to Mitchell to get an internship, they would have time to get there and get back, and still have a good amount of time to actually have the internship experience in that 2-block window. That should be 100% a possibility if they do their work in those first 3 semesters, or their first 3 years, excuse me. They should have more than enough credits to where what they still need in-house could be taken care of, so to speak.
What's the staff think about the proposed schedule change?
So far, I have not heard too much complaints about. The only thing that we're wondering about is where to put SRB, whether to put it after lunch or at the end of the day. Because you could argue that those are probably the two most unproductive times for kiddos, when they got a full belly and they feel like sleeping, or at the end of the day when their brains are a little bit shot. The perk of putting it at the very end of the day would be that if people are gone for activities, then they're not missing instructional time, right? Protect the instructional time, that's the goal. The downfall would be, is it going to create a headache with people trying to call in to get out at the end of the day because their instructional time is done. And have mom or dad call them in and say, can you get me out of here? I got nothing to do, even if they do. And so, where's that line? One thing I've thought about possibly doing is first semester next year, for a quarter, putting it right after lunch, and then for a quarter, putting it at the end of the day. And then we can compare and contrast a full 9 weeks of what it looks like, and then we can make our decision going forward. That's something we've discussed. That's what probably most of the questions have been about there. It's other than that, I think they are very much in favor of shortening the SRB and making it daily. I think right now you'd see a lot of frustration with trying to keep them doing productive tasks for a full 90 minutes, and how much of that is really used in a positive, productive way. And so I think that is something they're very much on board with, and now we just got to decide where we're going to place it, kind of go from there.
If you didn't do the math, we're carving out, or he's carving out, instead of 90-minute blocks instructional, they're 80.
Yeah.
Much more conducive, having done exactly what he's done, having had that experience. 80 is well within the realms of possibility to have effective instruction taking place. And then just have these opportunities stand alone. Again, to your question, I think, Matt, would be everything that you can do to make sure that kids don't have an excuse not to take band, not to take choir. You take those things away from them, now they no longer have that option. So, well, I can't do that because, no, now you can. Now it's a matter of, trying to, and both those young teachers, I think, are well adept at building our programs. The numbers have a tendency to be going upwards. I know they've only been here for a year and a half, but that's what I think, in conversation between Mr. Knipley and myself, is whatever we can do, and those teachers too, so kids don't have to compete for that. And I think this will allow that to happen as well. I mean, they're still probably going to come up with some excuse, but I mean, the ones that they want to blame or point the finger at us structurally, well, not anymore, because it isn't an issue anymore.
So the big thing about right now that I think is when we start registration in about a week and a half here, I'm going to require them to sign up for 7 courses. Right now they're usually signing up for 6, a few 7, but that's the main goal there. Just with the idea being that this will hopefully be the schedule going forward. I really believe that this is going to be a positive change, that over time will really help build what we're wanting to do in the school, which is to up the instructional time and make it as productive as possible. Any other questions?
Are you requiring the sophomores, juniors, and seniors to do the 7 as well?
Yeah, that would be in effect for everybody starting next year. And like I said, the graduation requirements, that's for the incoming freshmen, but starting next year, everybody would sign up for 7. And that, that goal is even though they don't have to do, they don't have to have more than that, it's about the productive use of time. And hopefully that, is, like, for example, if you're a senior and you're looking at what you got, maybe that means you got room to pick up another dual credit, or maybe you're more willing to pick up a youth internship. All those things we're trying to build will kind of naturally start to build momentum in the right direction was the goal there.
So it does say seniors would be allowed to sign up for 6 classes each semester.
That was what I thought about in that initial one, and then when I wrote it out, I decided to not, just because it's one of those things where the more I looked at it, I just, like I said, the goal there is going to be, I still want to sign up for 7, with the idea being is when this comes into effect, we could start looking at 2 class period internships eventually. So, if somebody is really struggling to come up with a 7th class, or if they, like I said, they had to go someplace a ways away for their internship, that's where you could start to open up that 2-period world of work type internship.
And dual credits count?
Dual credits count. It's
Okay.
like if you're enrolled in dual credit, that is one of your 7 enrolled classes. Yeah.
Okay,
So-
I was going to say, geez, that might be tough for some.
well, if you figure, let's say somebody's doing 3 dual credits, You gotta find 4 classes in the school building. There's a ton of really good electives in-house.
Sure.
On top of your extra cores you could be doing, we've got more than enough to fill.
It's gonna cause angst, I'm just letting you know that, and you may get a phone call or two, and I suspect we'll get maybe some, because kids are gonna go home, kids aren't gonna like it, and having done this as well, I'm telling you, kids are gonna rail, especially the older kids. And the premise behind it is right now, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing our students that are on the way out of our system any favors to set them up for success? Meaning, what is the workload when they get to wherever it is they're going? And I don't care if it's world of work, I don't care if it's military, tech school, 4-year university, college stuff. We have a tendency here in the short time I've been here and having some conversations that kids in their senior year get a little bit in coast mode. That's contradictory to the way it should be. Kids, I get it, I was a senior once too, I wanted to be done. But in all actuality, that's when you should be ramping it up in order to be prepared for what's going to come your way, honestly. So,
I'm fine with that.
yeah, that's
I'm
why
just-
I'm just letting you know that the kids,
And you're right,
kids are going to
there-
throw a
there's
little
gonna
bit
be,
of a...
they're gonna be complaining, but like I say, not all complaints are created equal. Sometimes complaints mean you're doing something wrong, sometimes complaints mean you're doing something right. And I think a lot of the complaints you're gonna see are gonna be because their leisure time during the school day is maybe being crimped down a little bit, but I'll take those complaints all day long, because that's the goal. We want them here, we want them learning, that's the goal. And so that's what we're really working hard to do. And that's why I know this one was built first, and then as I typed these up, I kind of realized that, the seniors get a lot of perks to being a senior. They can still sign up for 7 courses, and I don't think it'll be anything that makes them suffer too much.
I'm glad dual credits count though, because I think
Yeah.
that's important, yeah.
Yeah, and that's, there's a lot of opportunities for dual credits, and maybe that'll even allow them to be even in better shape walking out the door if they can take 3. And when you look at those dual credits, like, their workload is still very, very manageable with 7 versus 6, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Thank you. Do you need any feedback from us, Cole, or is this good, or you're?
Well, I mean, like, if somebody thinks that they're vehemently opposed and it's gonna stay that way, let me know, but like I said, I'm just trying to educate, and like I said, I know we don't vote on it till the summer, but the goal is that you guys know now, so that you can, if people come asking you questions, I wanted you to understand so you could be advocates for it, hopefully, and we're gonna move forward as if in the summer this is gonna be the change we make.
Sounds good, thank you. All right, we'll move to elementary principal AD report.
Okay, I was trying to reflect back. It's been a while. Feels like since we were talking, and a lot has happened. I wanted to just start by our February work day that we had. Mrs. Meddy opened up the Trojan Den for families to come in during that day, and that was a big success. So I wanted to just share that with the board. We had 12 families that came in, and we were able to get them hygiene bags, clothing items, coats, snow pants, backpacks, and so that's something that we were kind of using as a trial to see if we could open up during the day when students weren't here and how successful that would be, in hopes of next year growing that into something that would be more available to the community. So we were really excited with how that went, and it's going to be something that we continue to grow moving forward. So just wanted to let you guys know about that and how that went for us. Wanted to also talk about our mindsets. Last time we were together, talked about our penny war, which we raised a significant amount of money, but at the end of February we were able to have the Bertram family come in, and we presented them with a check for $4,500 to offset some of their medical bills that they have incurred with the birth of their little baby that came a little early and has had 7 different surgeries already. So that was a real positive thing. We presented them with that check in front of all of our elementary students so they could see where that money went to and the good that they had done in raising those funds. So I thought that was a pretty powerful thing for our kids to see. And we're also going to be using around $750 to create care baskets for the hospital in town for any cancer patients that might be coming in. And talked with Lindsay Weber on how to make that happen. So that's where that money's going to. So I just wanted to share that with you guys because it was a big deal for our elementary kids come up with those funds and want to make sure that they're going to a good spot. This is our 7th mindset. We're starting this mindset now in March here, and that is the time is now. And so just talking to kids about, you know, the importance of doing their best, shared with parents that, you know, probably our 4th quarter, which starts today, is probably going to be our most challenging because we're to the new content stuff and we want our kids to embrace those challenges. And so that is a little mini assembly that we put on for the kids last week. So we're wrapping those up. And then wanted to share with you guys, last week we did our preschool screening. We had 37 students that were screened. 32 of them will be of preschool age. So it was fun to welcome in those future students and see the looks of excitement on their face. I'm really excited about that group, and I think there are a few more out there in the community that will be joining that group. So I think we're in a good spot with our numbers for preschool for next year. Then finally, like I talked about, we got the 3rd quarter wrapped up last week on Thursday, so we sent report cards home today. You know, and are excited, and it's amazing to think about. We're 1 quarter left. It's crazy how fast the year is flying by. So that's kind of where we're at elementary-wise. Activity-wise, you know, we have wrapped up now. Wrestling finished their state tournament. Basketball season's finished up, you know, boys and girls, and felt like our winter sports really ended on a successful note. You know, with the girls wrapping up the SODAC 16, boys making it to the 2nd round of regions, 1 game away from SODAC. You know, and we had several wrestlers that did very well out at the state tournament in Rapid City. So I was really proud of those teams and their successes, and just like that, we're off to spring sports. Track started today. Golf will be getting started shortly. To be determined on when we can actually start competing outside, but you know, we're hopeful we can get some warm weather and avoid this storm that might be coming on Thursday, hopefully, you know, sooner than later. But our track numbers are looking great. Checking in with the coaches before practice today, they thought we'd have, you know, close to 120 athletes competing. So it'll be a big group, you know, so good things there. And I know baseball is a club sport, but they are starting their practices as well. So busy, right? You know, one sport right into the next. We also have a music concert tomorrow, and our school play has started up their practices, and they have their performance here in about a month. So everybody's busy and active, and you know, it's going well. So all things working in a positive direction. So that's all I got.
How many athletes in golf?
Girls golf, we're kind of waiting to see. We're hoping
6 or 7.
Yeah. So we had 3 last year, and hoping now that we've recruited a few more and growing that thing. Mr. Knipling is the girls golf coach, if you guys didn't know that. So
Do you have stats for golf? Do you do statisticians for golf? Is there a manager for golf? Do you need like somebody to carry the bags?
Wanted to play.
so we'll see how that goes. Anything else?
Thank you.
Mr. Fisher, I don't know if it comes underneath your jurisdiction ultimately, but speaking of the Trojan Den,
Yeah.
I ain't so sure that the last meeting we did, or the meeting before we touched on it, but I don't know, does the proceeds coming in there and what they're doing, I have no argument of what's happening,
Yeah.
but the accountability of where is that at? Is that underneath our jurisdiction, or is that a whole separate entity?
It's a trust and agency account,
Okay.
just like FFA, HOSA,
Ah.
all of them. And currently, it's embedded in with the FCCLA account because it started out as an FCCLA project with Miss Lukens that was here that night
Right.
while back that did the presentation to you guys. So that's why currently they keep track of it. All the money's put in with the FCCLA account. We did not create a new Trojan Den account yet, mainly because the auditors say you have to have a group, a board.
It's a structure.
You have to have a board approved, student board run group to have it in there. And that's why it's still under the FCCLA right now, because they don't have a board set up for that as students that help out with it. And it started out as an FCCLA project, not.
So is that where we're going, the direction?
They're looking at possibly doing a student board with it, yes. And then it would still be under our trust and agency account. All the bills, just like now, would what they do now. They would have a separate line item on that one. I can't remember what color it is, but the trust and agency one's green, I think, maybe. Where all the medical reimbursements are and all the HOSA, FFA and all that. Because right now it's not separate, it's in with FCCLA, the total. And they keep track of it on a Google Docs. 2 advisors have the access to that Google Docs and they both oversee it right now.
Is it mostly donations of like items or is it actual money?
Both.
Both.
Oh,
Yep.
It was actually quite, yeah.
that's cool. That's a really neat thing. Thank you.
Okay, thanks guys.
All right, Mr. McKinnon, go ahead.
Not much, other than this legislative, if you didn't hear, the education, they voted on Thursday for 7% for education and all community service providers and state employees. So that was really nice to see. I know there was some angst out in peer discrepancies, and it all hinged on whether they were going to do the tax cut or not. And that obviously went as well, but from 4.5% on all goods down to 4.2%, and it's about $105 million. I don't want to say loss, but that's the amount that is going to, the state budget is going to roll back to that degree because of the loss of those 0.3% in that. So other than that, there wasn't a whole lot of it, other than I put the bills in your packet. The whole culmination of anything that impacted education, it was really a good year, I guess, for education. There were some things there that I think as our lobbyists clarified, and then there were some things they got killed too that probably were not going to be in the best interest of school districts. So. But yeah, that's kind of where the legislative process is. And then the other thing I had for you guys on my end of the thing is the school board election. So, yeah, Scott, that's you. Hold that up, please, if you're looking for those bills. Yeah. So,
Mr. M?
Yes, sir.
If, going back to that 7%.
Yep.
Does all that still have to have the governor's approval yet?
Yeah, I probably should have clarified
Okay.
that that's what they sent to their desk.
Thank you.
That whole budget encapsulates everything that she proposed in her State of the Budget address in December. About 98% of it is what she proposed, the entirety of the budget. So, because she didn't get her full repeal on groceries, is she going to make that decision? I don't know.
Okay.
But March 27th is the veto day. So if she does put a veto on that funding package, then it will go back to both houses on the 27th. And by the numbers and the way they both passed, the bills that they both passed, they have more than 2/3 vote to override it. So I don't know that, are we going to play politics, or, if she really wants to go that direction and stand firm. And I think the biggest reason that maybe it'll get signed is because there's a groundswell right now to take the full repeal on food to an initiative in 2024. It'll be on the ballot. I mean, they're already out signing petitions and stuff. So I think because they'll see it in that fashion, that she may have the tendency, okay, let the vote of the people decide then in 2024 instead of trying to play that game. That's what we're hoping for. So that's the process that's involved in that. So good question. And then back to the school board election, Mr. Leishner had a petition, got that delivered in time for to meet that timeline. And then we had 2 positions, Mr. Prohl position, and Mr. Prohl didn't take out that petition, but nobody else did. Craig, help me, correct from me if I'm wrong. So because of that, there wouldn't be a necessity for a school board election in April, and we were gonna do that jointly with the city this year. So, but it's gonna leave you with a decision to make, because, you know, you have to operate with a 5-person board, because that's what your structure says that you need to do. So, something to think about moving forward. And Mr. Pearl's term isn't up until actually June, actually the first meeting in July, and then reorganize in July, and then we'll go from there. So, but I don't know. I mean, if it's, do you want us to get on our hands and knees now and beg, Mr. Pearl? Or would you like to think about it for a little bit, or?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff for me is kind of going in a different direction, which is good. And so I really didn't want to do a 3-year.
Sure.
Because by the 3rd year, I might be out of the area. But I would, if you guys would want, I would certainly look at another year, possibly 2.
Sure.
But I didn't want to take out a 3-year knowing that probably would not happen. So,
Right.
out of due respect for the board here.
Yeah, and I think that's certainly respectable and commendable and honorable. And I think that's something well within your rights as a school board. I believe it almost has to be 1 year at a time, because you have to turn around and have that petition go again the following year. And if, again, nobody moved or stepped up or took the initiative to do that, then I think you could turn around as a board and reappoint again if you needed to. So I believe you're in your rights to appoint, and then you also have the opportunity to, if you wanted to, solicit and take in applications if you wanted to, and put that out there and set up interviews and stuff, if that's something that you wanted to do, if that was your desire as well. So I think you have you can decide tonight if you wanted to, which way you wanted to do that, but you know, if you wanted to wait, it doesn't have to be done tonight. It's just something to think about. And if Mr. Prohl's offered that opportunity, I guess make sure, I mean, I did reach out to Rodney, but our school attorney, and check to make sure one more time we're well within our rights to do it that way, if that's okay. So unless you got other feedback or comments from anybody.
If John's willing to do it, I'm willing to make the motion to appoint John Pearl for a 1-year term, if that's.
I'll second that.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
They're locking you in right away.
Before you change your mind.
Yeah, we don't want you to get away and think about it.
Thank you.
That's all I had, Jill.
Okay.
We need to make a vote, or have a vote on that. Go to a 1 year.
Is it roll call, Craig, or is it good enough you think 5? Well, I didn't clarify that, I guess.
That
So
I don't know either. I don't think it is.
you could do a roll call, and then you'd certainly be within your rights then.
Yeah,
'cause
then
you'd
you're
have it
covered.
covered, so.
Moved by Leishner, second by Turner, to appoint John Prohl to a 1-year position on the Parks and School Board for the FY24 school year. Does that sound good? Any other discussion on that? Hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Nebo?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Schoenfelder?
Yes.
Leishner?
Yes.
Motion carried. I don't know that you get to vote on your own deal.
Probably not.
You might vote no.
Yeah, you have a chance to vote no.
It doesn't matter, you're outvoted, so
Yeah.
too bad.
Okay, motion carried.
All right, we'll move to discussion items. The first discussion item is A, review policy manual. The following ASBSC policies are being presented for review and first reading: BCE, BCF, BCG, BD, BDA.
Those were all in your packet. I didn't see any of those policies that were essentially out of alignment or something that wasn't, I guess, in current practice. So if you had questions, I try to answer them, but I didn't see anything there as far as your operational approach. is you have board committees, you have advisory committees, you have school attorney, you have school board meetings, you have your regular special meeting procedures, and then you have electronic communication if necessary.
Any questions, comments? All right, we'll move, we don't need anything there,
So,
right?
hope it's
First
considered first reading, yeah?
All right, we'll move to B, review policy manual. The following ASBSD policies are being presented for review in a second reading: BBF, BBFA, BCA, BCB, and BCD. So those would have been in the last
Those would
packet.
have been, yes, in our February meeting, you had those in your packet, and they were available for review. So,
Okay, any comments, questions about that? All right, we'll move to C, review policy manual. The following ASBSD policies are being presented for review and adoption: BBBA, BBBB, BBC, BBE, and BBEA. So if there's no questions or comments, I need a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it, Greg.
Moved by Sean Feldner, second by Pearl to approve the following policies: BBBA, BBBB, BBC, BBE, BBEA. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we'll move to D, building committee update. The school board will be presented with an update on the proposed multi-use facility addition, financing, and bid opening timeline.
Yeah, so a week ago, we had the pre-bid meeting here. We had quite a few vendors here, actually, which was favorable to our project, in hopes that they got their questions answered and compiling their bid spec, or their bid packages of what they wanted to, throw in, which is tomorrow, March 14th, for what they want to bid towards our facility that is being proposed. So tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we are meeting in the elementary library due to the potential number of people, vendors showing up to hand in their, hand deliver their bids. So we'll see how that goes and who actually turns up. I've actually received 3 different mailings in the mail of looks like bids to me. So I'm guessing there'll be quite a few people showing up tomorrow. We have a big committee, but just keep in mind, and you're certainly welcome to do that, to attend that meeting if you so choose. We just can't have more because it's not advertised as a school board meeting. So any more than 2 would constitute a school board meeting. So I don't recall. Do you remember who's on the bid opening committee?
Is it you two?
Mr. Prohl, maybe? I think so. I think it was you.
I'm looking right in the, yeah, if you know.
Who else was it, Greg?
I'm looking here. That was done in July, right?
Yeah. It's in
Appointments, here we go. Scott Herman-Lesh on the building and grounds, and John Prohl on the bid opening committee.
Okay.
So John.
Yeah.
So was the only one appointed.
It's, I mean, there's not a whole lot to do because Pitts will lead that.
Yeah, we just sit there.
Yep, and they'll have their tabulation sheet and they'll open them up and read them and tabulate them, and we'll pick it all up and walk out the door.
No, I'll try and make it tomorrow.
Yeah, so, but the other components there, I guess, Craig and I visited about, and I put it in the notes, and there is anticipation, as to what that number could be. Just some recollection here that you, back, I forget, it was either October or November, you did sign a resolution, or you passed a resolution, I guess, to issue capital outlay certificates to the amount of $7.575 million, and that's well within your rights, within the 1.5% of your assessed valuation that you could raise. And that number was based on a $506 million, Craig, or
509.
$509 million of assessed valuation. Well, that went up. Our assessed valuation has since then went up. Last month, we talked about some information coming from D.A. Davidson. That was in your packet about, because of that new number, what you have the legal authority to raise now if you needed to. And that grew to about $8.3 million based on the new assessed valuation of 560...
556 million.
56?
Yep.
556 million. So if you got to that point, we would have to probably issue a new a new resolution. Sorry, I'm getting
It's either that or it's an amendment to it, I can't remember.
or
what Jerry
either
said.
one or the
Yeah,
other.
something
Either that
along
or
those
amendment. I
lines.
can't remember what Jerry Spethman
Yeah.
had said, but anyway. So
One other thing I wanted to point out, Pat, too, is with that 7.5, with the rates at the time, the new borrowing power because of premium changes also went to 8.1 at that time of with the 7.5. And the borrowing power with the 8.3 million with the premiums based on the January 30th time, when's the last time we got the updates, that was 8.8. It's because the premiums are right at 500,000, a little over 500,000 in each one. Where before the premiums were only at 60,000.
So you'd
Because of the
glean that
rates.
much more because of the rates and being favorable, you know, so while you issued it for that 8.3, you could actually retain, it could grow to 8.8 million because of the premium that is coming back your way as a seller.
Now, that was as of January 30th too.
Well, yeah, and we
Might be
haven't-
another rate hike here in a week or whatever,
but
right?
we haven't talked to
So,
Mr.
who knows?
Spethman.
No, we
since
haven't.
then, so.
We haven't. That's the latest numbers we have for you.
And the 7.5 number is what we took to the community meeting.
No, that was 7 million,
That was 7 million.
because we didn't have that. We just rounded it at 7 million.
When we did the public meeting.
When we did the public meeting with that PowerPoint, it was based off of 7
7 million.
million.
So, I think the challenge for you guys in a very short period of time here is elected officials as to how you would like to proceed with this process. Not knowing what the number is until tomorrow, and we'll have a pretty good idea of what those bids come in at. I don't know, in talking with Pitts Construction, that while you have 30 days to accept or reject the bids that come tomorrow, I got the sense, because of how that has all fallen in the calendar, that it was something that they would prefer not to wait that long upon asking, are you willing or can you have a special board meeting? And I said, well, yeah, school board can do that at any point in time. They can have special board meetings. So I got the sense that that's something that they wanted to have a decision on prior to waiting until April 10th school board meeting. So something for you guys to have to, decide, and then what is the dollar amount? What is in your mindset to say, to get you to that point where, okay, that's what it is, then yes. Or if that's what it is, let me think about it. Or if that's what it is, we need to have a conversation. Can it be different, or is it, going to be done, ended? Those are decisions you guys are going to have to make based on what that number comes in at. And I get you don't know that, but if you have something in mind, it's up for conversation. I guess now, if you wanted to have that conversation, amongst yourself, as to what that could take, for you to make those decisions, I don't know. That's the challenge.
My opinion is, I think once we get the bids in tomorrow, Pete's puts something together, then we know that end of it. Certainly, that'd be the big key, and then where we go from there. So I think we should have a special meeting, probably within a week.
Yeah.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
following.
So if you look at March 20th, I asked Craig, because him and I were visiting about this, I said, well, what's on your calendar for March 20th? So I did exactly a week from tonight, and it's certainly doable. I don't have anything, he didn't have anything, and that would be the only thing technically on the agenda that you guys could address or need to address at that point in time. So, but And we'll have that information then.
As I say,
This-
Fitz's deal will be put together tonight at the end of the, or tomorrow at the end of the deal.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're gonna type it right in the spreadsheet and send it right. At least that's how the track project one went.
Right, but then they have to check their bonding and stuff like that, don't they, technically?
Yeah, so well, the number you'll know.
Right.
They'll have to do some legwork to see the legitimacy of
Correct.
everyone that submitted the bid. Yes, you're right, Mr. Pulitz, that they have all the documents in their bid package that they had to have, and,
Yes.
and they'll take that back with them, but you're going to know a
The
number.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Do you think there's an anticipation of more than one board meeting needed for this?
I don't know. I mean, are we gonna know, are you gonna be talking to the funding side also?
Oh, easy, yeah. We're just a phone.
He knows that it's opening tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it just depends what it comes back at and what it looks like. And
Yeah,
there,
if
you
it's-
know, once we know, because that's what we'll find out at the meeting is what it is. And then it's, can we decide upon that or do we need to think about it, or just depending, I think, on what the numbers come in at.
Yeah, if it's close,
Mm-hmm,
you know what I mean, but if it's way out in
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
left field, then, so, I'm fine with the 20th as well. I actually looked at my calendar yesterday when I was going through this stuff, so.
So here's my challenge to you. And I get, you're okay, I'm not asking you to reveal the number in your head. But you have to have a number in your head, personally, as to what that number is gonna be. What is your threshold to say yay or nay to that? And then when we have that meeting in a week's time, to enter that into the conversation about what that potentially would be. In talking to some of the vendors that were there, there still are supply chain issues that they are experiencing. That obviously has led to increased costs. The whole concept of inflation in of itself has also led to that increased cost. I did include the first sheet from Pitts Construction that was in the fall of the year, that they gave us a very 10,000 foot estimation as to what it potentially could cost.
That's the 731.
The 7.3. The actual construction component, I believe, was 6.2 million.
Yep.
And then all the other ancillaries, the fees, when you added it all up, it was about 7.3 million is what it could cost. And that's where the 7.575 million came into the resolution to offer that amount of certificate if you needed to. And you guys made a very prudent decision at the time to say, one, no, not sell those certificates, and two, we want to find the actual number before you move forward with any decisions at that point in time. So, but you know, you have to ask yourself, and I'll just use 8.3. To me, that's the challenge. Why? Is because now you have the authority, you could, if you needed to, if you wanted to, the legal authority to say, okay, we can sell 8.3. Is 8.3 the number? Is 8.3 too much? Is it too high? It's not within the conversation. I don't know. Not my decision.
Estimates on, can you give us some estimates
Yep.
on taxable levy on that?
So, right now, I did that already for you. The original one we talked about to the public, it was a total of 1.251 million. Do you remember that number? In that deal?
Go deeper, Craig, with
Okay,
that. What's
yep.
1.25 million? Tell them
So
what that
currently
means.
we asked for $850,000
In our capital.
in our capital outlay. And when we did the public meeting, based on 7 million, I felt, or we felt at that time, to be safe and comfortable, we thought we could do it for 1.251 million, meaning 510 at that time was the principal and interest of the capital outlay certificates. Okay? And then our annual expenditures of $466,000 and $275,000 transfer to the general fund. That did not take into play the $132,000 for the HUZAP bonds, but we felt for 2 years, I thought we could get by with our reserves or whatever, or just skimping on the $466,000 that we had left over to spend for other projects to make that work for 2 years, because those are gone after FY24, that $132,000. So that was 7 million and interest rates at that time. Well, now when you looked at this one that we gave you in January, you guys had this, sorry I didn't print it out again for you. But the 7.5 million synopsis or scenario, the starting payment would be 579,000. So that's an increase of $70,000. In order to make that work, and we said 60 cents, I feel it's probably gonna have to be 75 cents per thousand increase. Or, I mean, we're just basically, you know, you can sit here and talk about this in dollars per thousand, or you can just flat dollar amount, because the capital outlay, 850,000. So we would probably need another, instead of 1.251, it's probably 1.35 for that one. Okay, maybe not quite, right around there. That for a homeowner of a $250,000 homeowner, that would show an approximate increase of about $190. $187.50, somewhere in that range. A year in taxes. Now, if you went to the 8.3, I think it has to be at least 500, so 1.4 million that we would ask for. Because that starting yearly payment is $635 instead of $580 or $579.
So out of the 1.4 million, your first 635,000 is attributed towards your project, your capital outlay certificates. Then that leaves the rest of it to do business.
And that would be about a $215 increase for a $250,000 home.
Sorry, what was that amount?
212.50 or 215, round up, whatever you want. Right around. I didn't try to get 2 pennies. Too close to the pennies sometimes. And when we said it, you know, the 7 million was a $150 increase for that same house. Remember, so for a landowner, it's the same, $250,000 worth of land. That's how much you're going to see as an increase.
It's dollars per dollar. There's no difference.
Does that help, Jed?
Yeah, no, it does.
What you wanted?
No, that's exactly what I wanted.
So, no answers tonight. It just come tomorrow. You know, and if I think you guys have come to the conclusion that, okay, a week from tonight, we'll be back here at 6:30 if that works. You know, and that'll be on the table once you know your number, and then the decision's gonna have to be made about, okay, which way you go. So.
Jerry should be able to have new numbers by then.
And you guys will get us all the information on the bids and the new numbers?
Yes.
As soon as that
Yes.
comes out.
So Wednesday, Jerry has that for us on Wednesday morning.
Cool.
So you send that out.
That
so
we
got
could get.
time.
Yep.
Any additional breakdowns that you can give us, that
Yeah, we're not gonna-
really, really help. At least me make my decision.
Well, we're not gonna have you come to the meeting and say, okay, here it is. It's just like a board packet. We'll get it to you in advance, so you have some opportunity to put some thought into that process. So when you come on that night, you have formulated your own version of what that means to you. So, for sure. Okay. Anything else on, not from my part, but from your guys' part, questions on, you know, the building committee, you know, update and where we're at in this whole process?
How long does it take to set up an election, like a city election? Say we would decide to take it to the city.
To the vote, to the public meeting?
Yeah.
I think it was at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Not that long?
'Cause
Okay.
Yeah, the
You gotta do all your
advertising,
publications and
yeah.
stuff.
Okay.
Register your voters. They
I
have
wanna
get a
say
chance to
6
do
weeks,
that.
but-
I want to say 6 weeks too.
Okay.
And while you weren't having a school board election,
Right.
there's a city election. Now, are we close to that time frame?
And we wouldn't be able to get it in
I don't
time,
think so.
because that's April 12th.
Yeah, right.
Sure.
So it'd have to be a separate one. We wouldn't have enough time.
And that question, and that's part of the conversation. Is that just to get feedback, simple yay or nay? Or is that taking it to a different route? Instead of selling capital outlay certificates, now do you want to propose a bond?
Well, that
In that
depends on what it
concept.
comes in.
Exactly, right.
So,
Yeah, and those are, I mean, something else that you can think about as to which way do you want to take that, so. Great question.
Okay, anything else?
How does that
we all set
component,
for-
sorry.
No, you're good, March 20th at 6:30 then?
If that's everybody's in favor, a week from tonight, I'm back here for 6:30 for that.
I won't be able to be here, but I can call in if that's something.
It doesn't, yeah, whatever, yep. Different time, different date, doesn't have to be 20th.
I could go like at 8 o'clock in the morning on Monday, but other than that, it's a bad week for me. I'll be gone
Oh,
most of the
okay.
week, so.
But you'll be able to call in at that point in time, yeah.
And if you guys can excuse me, on the 20th, I'm supposed to be at City Hall with equalization.
Well, that is our equalization,
But
isn't it?
if you guys can give me a pass, I'd sooner be here than there.
Is that for the townships too, that
No,
night?
that's
Okay,
just-
I was gonna say, I got one of them coming up here, I don't know when that is.
That's usually, ours is the next night on Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay. I
But
should
if
be
you
able to
guys
make
can
that.
give me a pass on that, then I can be here.
Well, and that's totally up to, is the necessity to have representation at the equalization meeting outweigh this conversation? I don't know that it does. I don't know that they have, I don't know if, did they have an agenda, meaning do they have people that are coming to contest?
Possibly.
Yeah.
We don't know that I don't know that until that night.
Oh, sure.
Till you get that, good, nobody does.
Is there something that we need to let know, Mr. Prohl? I mean, I think I kind of
I can
communicated.
let the mayor know.
Yeah, you can, I need to, you need to.
Would you?
Yeah, okay, okay.
I mean,
I
if it
think
doesn't
it's,
work, I think the 21st is,
That's Stark Township.
yeah, it's town, I can't do it.
oh, that's at Senior Telethon too.
Yeah.
But I can do it the 20th.
Okay.
Maybe it'll be done snowing by then.
Maybe.
Oh, I hope so.
Okay.
So we 20th at 6:30. And we'll call you, Matt?
I'll call. Well, we'll figure that out later, I guess. yeah.
Okay. Yeah, how to, but the time is okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You have the ability to call
Yeah.
them. Us, one way or the other, we can communicate at 6:30.
Mhm.
Yeah, right.
Okay, we will move to E, strategic planning update. The school board will hear an update on the strategic planning process conducted by Dakota Educational Consulting and discuss who would like to represent the board on the external focus group on April 6th.
So I put that in there, just, I know that's kind of moving fast, but you gave us the opportunity, which I appreciate, to reach out to our patrons, our stakeholders, our parents, our students, and our staff. Mr. Oster from Dakota Educational Consulting, part of the process then is to talk to an internal and external control groups, having conversations about what was in the survey, and hope, everybody here is a parent. I said, Mr. Prohl, I apologize for that, but I'm hoping you all have seen the survey. The link was out there, that you had the opportunity, speaking in your own perspective as a parent, that you got an opportunity to fill that out. It doesn't close till Friday. And I'm going to put out another reminder here to the public about doing that. Mr. Knipling helped me out with the 6 through 12 and took some time last week to have those 6 through 12 students answer the survey in SRB. I think we got good returns on that. So I got to talk to the staff a little bit, but it's like only half of them have stepped up to the plate at this point in time to get that done by the numbers he's telling me. So I'll have to give them a reminder too. But the external focus group, I asked him who he wanted on that, and he said certainly, board is invited to be on there. He would like to have some board representation on that external group. The time frame to do that is we do have an early out on April 6th. It's a 1 o'clock dismissal, and he's going to meet with the internal group at that point in time. He said it's anywhere from about 70 to 90 minutes of time. And then after he's done with that group, then he would meet with the external group. So if there's anybody that is willing on that day, and I get it, the timing ain't the greatest from a work perspective, but if you wanted to come and sit in on, 60, 70 minutes of collaboration and communication, and with Mr. Oster leading that and orchestrating that about our strategic plan would be appreciated. So that's kind of why I put it and worded it the way I did. And I can give more specific dates or times when that actually gets a little bit closer. So I don't know who has the ability to potentially maybe come sit in on that conversation as an external member, board member, so.
I can do that.
Jill would be, you could do that
Yep.
for us.
If no one, if everybody is okay with that. Basically.
And we can have as many as 2 if you need, if we wanted to, because the 2 is not our quorum, so anybody else is more than welcome at that stage of the game, so.
Do you know what time it's at? Sure.
So, yeah, if we're out at 1, he wants to start at 1:30, he'll meet with that group till 3, and then essentially looking at 3 o'clock to like 4:30, you know, somewhere in there, so.
Why don't you put me down?
John, okay, appreciate it. And I'll let you guys know when we get a little closer to that, so it'd be nice to have a couple members on that external group, so.
So is it that we're there to just listen or there to contribute as well? Like
Yep,
part of-
he'll take you through a process, so he'll
Okay.
give you the results as an external group. Obviously, you took the parent survey, if you haven't, please do so, but then we asked students, and they'll have that tabulation, and then we asked another set of questions to our staff, and they'll have that tabulation. And the whole premise is to go through that, and then from the information that is gleaned and the answers that are given, okay, what is that telling us about our school district, and how is that going to help us set our strategic plan as to what goals do we have going forward? So yes, there will be communication and collaboration involved in that.
Okay.
So
Does he need to see the survey before?
I don't think so, because he'll have the data there.
Okay.
So, and he'll lead you through that
Because
process.
it's just parents, students, and staff that
So
get it?
the external, right, the external group then is board members, the parents will be on that one. Internal is just the staff. External is parents, board members. I don't know if they're, we had conversations about, I'm gonna reach out to our colony people to try to get some representation from them on this, so.
Did the students get to hear the feedback at all since they took the
He was welcome, he said it's not done a whole lot, he said, but if they would be in on the internal
Okay.
group. So
Like
because of the school setting.
Representation from each class or what?
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Yep. Kind of like what we did with, when we hired a year ago and when we did principal interviews, so. I believe in that. I believe that they should have,
Well, if they
I don't
did
know if
the
they'll,
survey, it would be
yeah,
good
totally
to
under, yeah,
hear.
for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, they'll have an idea as to what it's about because they did take the survey,
Mhm.
so.
yeah. Okay. All right, any other comments about that?
No.
Okay, we will move to discussion item F, funding gymnastics program. The school board will discuss whether gymnastics will become a fully funded sanctioned sport.
Okay, so I put some documents in your packet, and again, you know, I had some conversations with the Ethan and the Hanson School District. I did not reach out to the Mount Vernon School District as they have not had representation in the program since I left. My daughter came with. So, but what has transpired here is we have some interviews coming up next week that in some of our cheer programs and stuff, and plus communication with our current gymnastics coach. You know, I'm not exactly sure that it's something that is on her radar screen to continue in that leadership of the gymnastics program. So we talked, Mr. Knipling and Mr. Fisher and myself have talked about what should that look like, what is it going to look like because of how we currently do gymnastics and look at that component. I did have a chance to talk to superintendents in those other two school districts, and they too agreed that we're not exactly sure that based on how we currently go about, I guess, funding the gymnastics program, with new leadership in there and I should clarify, those school districts were very much in favor of retaining the program. Ethan had some really, really strong numbers in their youth program. And maybe not as many as in Hanson, but he said there are numbers there. And then I think Mr. Fisher can speak a little bit more in depth to what our numbers here within our younger group of kids who are looking at. And I've had more than one parent ask, where is this going? Is this something that the school board is going to get on board with and commit to? Because if they aren't, then they're going to start steering their kids different directions as far as what programs they want them to be in, knowing that there won't be a potential gymnastics program here. I don't know that anybody's ever said that, and we're going that route. But if there is a change in leadership to say, yeah, we'd love you to be the head coach, you take over it, you do all your fundraising, you're not going to get any money for it, and it's your own beast. I don't know that that's something that is going to, garner anybody's attention to, yeah, I'll do that. And how are you going to help me? Well, we're not going to help you. I mean, per se. You have to raise your own money. You don't get any pay for it. Things of that nature. So that's why it's here in front of you tonight, because I think there's some decisions that are potentially going to have some ramifications about the program as we move forward. I put that information in your packet. If you told me, put a gun to my head and said, these are the numbers, I probably wouldn't do that. These are the numbers that she has given me. Current Coach Munafarian, who's led the program since its inception, as to what she believes that the things that cost her in any one given year. So, the main component in here that I think that's not in there, it's not represented in there, is travel to practice. The two practice facilities that the gymnastics program uses is Mega and Core. They're both located in Mitchell. They're both privately owned. And she has a relationship with both of those owners that allow the Parkston Ethan Hansen gymnastics team to come in there, and 3 days a week, because that's, if you can see that, it's in there. They only practice technically 3 days a week, and then the other time is, whether it's optional for a fee, and then Saturday's occasional that they have to go do that stuff. The greater majority of your costs are the gym rental or the gym rent for those two entities, and then potentially a coaching salary if you brought the gymnastics program under your umbrella. And from that perspective, the rest of it is pretty much in line, with costs, meet fees, the certification stuff, and that's the things that she was doing on her own. I don't know that necessarily applies, because she's talking, I think, on a larger level. I don't know all the nuances to certification, become a gymnastics coach per se, because it doesn't cost Activities Association. I mean, our coaches don't pay to get certified. If I'm a football coach, I don't pay to get football certification. And I don't know exactly what she's referencing there. I guess I didn't clarify that. So there's some coursework, but it doesn't equal that. So
Yeah, that might be close though with the.
I was gonna say, I had to do that for cheerleading where you had to do like a certification.
yeah, you do.
Before when I was coaching, so the safety rules and all that for
Right.
lifting, and
I don't know if that's annually, it might be every.
I think it's
other-
every other year. Yeah, I think it was too.
But anyway, you can see the ancillary costs that are associated with that. So, is $12,050 representative? Is it spot on, the exact amount? No, but I think it's pretty close. And then we're headed with transportation that we do not provide. You don't now, and that's something that we could take a look at. Are we going to provide that transportation to practice those 3 days a week. Well, to be honest with you, I don't know if the necessity is there. My daughter is, I gave her the directive to become the chauffeur this year, and I think she and another gal did, and those kids jumped in a vehicle, and I get that nobody likes to do that, but, you know, they went, and when times got tough, I took them or another parent took them, you know, to make sure that they arrived safely and got home safely. So, I don't know. If we want to have the program, which, you know, what are the ramifications if you didn't? You know, some parents said they'll steer their kids in another direction, you know, but they always have, if they're passionate about it, and that's their, they can't live without it, and you don't have it, what would you do? I mean, are you gonna go someplace else? I don't know. I mean, that's a risk. Nobody's said that. Nobody's, I don't want to say threatened that, but it's certainly something, if your kid is passionate about it and they want to do that and you don't have it, it's something you probably consider as a parent. So, but anyway, yeah, the other two superintendents for the dollar amount that if you divided it by 3 ways, looking about $4,000 per school. I put the golf information in there as a comparable for you. I think, Craig, you supported that. That was probably likely a good comparison, I suspect, you know, from a financial perspective and numbers perspective. I think the last year, you guys already mentioned, you had 3 kids in it in girls golf. The year before that, I'm not so sure it was any more than that. Maybe it was just two. The 2 of the year before that. There's 6 Parkston girls in this. There's 12 total between Parkston, Ethan, and Hanson. 3 from Ethan, 3 from Hanson that are involved in that program. I guess numbers, Mr. Fisher, I don't know the younger groups in your elementary, you know, off the top of your head, maybe how many young kids may be involved in that program up there?
Yeah, I don't know an exact number, but I feel like it's quite a few. I mean, looking at, especially if we're looking, you know, when we talk 3rd through 5th grade, you know, I think you got a couple girls in each grade that are involved in it right now. You know, so you're probably at, trying to think in my head, probably 6 or 7, maybe a few more than that even in those 3 grades. And when you look down at our kindergarten, you know, kindergarten 1st grade, there are a lot in there. Probably the same amount or more than what would be in 3rd, 4th, and 5th right now.
You can make the argument whether they're going to stay at it. Do they really know any different at, you know, age 4, age 5, age 6? I don't know. I mean, no different than the wrestling, I suspect. I mean, but, you know, I think there is an interest in the program. I know I talked to 2 parents today that they were in Omaha over the weekend. What was you doing there? Gymnastics. That's what they were there. They went to Omaha for gymnastics. So, but, yeah. Anyway, what questions can I answer? What more information? I mean, are you...
The other schools involved, would they, I'm just trying to think the framework of this, are they willing to commit to the $4,016 per year?
Yeah.
What happens if they don't have, they have 1 student or 1 participant in it per year?
You know, so Craig and I talked about coming up with an agreement that's got a little bit more concrete structure to it and a plan
Cooperative agreement.
to it,
Yeah.
cooperative agreement, that, because right now, him and I talked and like, is there one? No.
Because
It
we're
was-
not required to pay anything right now, right?
It was one of
But
those,
this would change it to be more like track,
Be
yeah.
the same as every other sport, yeah.
yeah.
So
Just for the-
we would certainly do that, Jed, as far as who's the responsible
Yeah.
fiscal agent, what are the ramifications, what happens if this, that, or the other happens type of deal. So I think but they're willing to do that, and we did talk as superintendents that if we do this, then that stuff needs to be laid out.
Yes, because I mean, worst case scenario, I mean, you'd want some sort of ongoing agreement, whether it's a 3 or 5-year contract or something, because you don't want to get to, well, hey, we don't have anybody interested, looks like
Right.
it's you 2 on your own.
Yeah.
You know, that's muddy water there. But,
Yeah.
I mean, me personally, I mean, there's been discussions at this table over softball, this and that. I think,
Well, I think I put in my notes, so
Right.
softball, at the time, we didn't have the numbers we felt to support it. We had numbers, but they were all 7th graders and 8th graders trying to compete in varsity athletic, or an athletic level, or excuse me, a varsity level. Didn't know if that was in the best interest. And I heard baseball is not this year, but next. And then the one that's coming is, that potentially may come next year, is the esports. And there's a pilot right now, there's 10 school districts right now that are doing esports. And the ones that aren't doing it, they're smaller schools that they're using it to supplement for programs. A school district to the north, because they cannot find a music teacher, a band instructor for the last 2 years, going on 3 now, that in order to give those kids another opportunity, they took upon the esports on their own accord. And the numbers involved in their esport program correlates with the number of kids that they had in band at the time that they lost their instructor. So it provided those 20 plus kids another opportunity. So, but it will become a South Dakota High School Activity Association sanctioned sports. Esports is coming.
Well, so is tennis, right?
Tennis already is.
Right. So I mean, just because
Yeah,
the high
it
school.
Doesn't mean we
activity
That's
association
exactly
says
right.
It doesn't mean it.
But if you're gonna have the numbers, when that interest starts taking root, then again, you're back at the table having conversations about should we or shouldn't we? So,
I mean, just looking at this number, 4,600, I mean, this is just my opinion. How much more could this number inflate if the demand is there and we have more kids going out? It's pretty much, that's what it's gonna be, right?
yeah, I mean, other than your raises in coaching.
And it depends on what you do with travel. The more, so
Yeah,
right now, there's no
hotels.
travel for bus. No, I'm talking
Oh, yeah,
bus.
yes, travel.
You get to the point where you need a bus, then then the cost of that goes up dramatically.
Well, and then if
Like,
we,
yeah,
Then you're doubling it.
then you're doubling that.
Well, not the 12,000, but I'm saying it's another 4. I mean, a bus budget for other sports is
It'd be around
$4,000
$4,000.
to $6,000.
So it'd be $1,000 per school, roughly.
1,500.
1,500.
Because some of these events, if
But
you
you're
look,
actually, yeah,
the
obviously,
events aren't close.
obviously we're impacting more students at that point too, but.
And then
so it's
wrestling's 2 weeks
I
later,
don't
it's
know.
done 2
Do we
weeks
have the
later.
money?
So,
Depends on what you're gonna do with negotiations.
Okay.
and then,
I mean, the 4,000, you're paying 1,000 already.
Yeah, I mean,
And I'm looking too, they raised about 2,000 in fundraising.
Well, they wouldn't have to do that though.
I'm just saying that if they continue
Yeah.
on with that, because other sports fundraise.
But that, not for this stuff though.
yeah, they're fundraising for
We would
everything.
provide those things, that would
Yeah,
be
we would
above and
provide-
beyond.
They
For
fundraise,
the
the other
program.
sports fundraise for fluff, not
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
stuff.
The extras.
Yeah.
Your
No.
shooting shorts, your,
Not that they couldn't still do that, but
No.
yeah,
they-
but they wouldn't need to.
correct.
it wouldn't be your expectation that they fundraise $2,000 to put back into their own program. If they want to use for camps or like the other groups do, they can, do those things.
I mean, me personally, I think it's hard not to support them. I mean, I really do. We're gonna be hanging banners on the wall and have with no support from us. I think that's tough. I don't know. What are your thoughts, guys? Joe?
Mike.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I would be fine supporting it. I think we have a lot of kids who participate, and if it was one of my kids, I would want to be able to have the opportunity to provide that for them. So I think that it's important to, provide that. I'm good with that.
My concern just comes down to the ongoing costs, and not just for gymnastics. From my point of view, this all relates to all future activities, including any of the additional clubs. If we would add all 4 of these, that's a teacher, pretty much, eventually. And what happens, just using gymnastics as an example, it would be the same for any other activity. We start out, with 3, and assuming they stay together, but what happens, we lose our relationship with Core or Mega, or both, and then we've got nowhere to practice. Well, that's gonna come back to us. I mean, if we're supporting at that point, it's gonna come back to us. And So I would have a real hard time adding any activities, whatever they are, without taking something away. And that's I don't know, that's a fight we want to get into. I mean, you're basically putting six gymnastics girls against 6 golf girls right now, if that would be the case, I guess. But that's where I'm coming from.
I think the more programs we add too, like it takes away from the other activities we already have, like basketball, then you add softball. And I know they're different seasons, but it does impact track. It impacts, kids who go out for baseball maybe don't go out for track. Kids who go out for softball don't go out for track. So it impacts those numbers, although our track program is really strong. But I agree that there are challenges, but I would be okay supporting it, I guess. I think if it came to the
The
point.
alternative is you have to make a decision, because if you're gonna say no, which, that's fine, we need to tell these people that you will know gymnastics is not a thing. I'll submit a application to the South Dakota High School Activity Association dissolving the co-op. Then it's up to Ethan and Hanson to do their own thing.
Why would we need to go that far? I mean, why? They came to Parkston High School with this idea to start this club. So, I mean, just because they have transitioned now doesn't automatically make it our fault
No.
or our problem.
I guess only if we couldn't find that next leader, I guess. Because if you don't have a coach,
How many students do we have here that compete in gymnastics?
I think
6.
6.
that's 7 through 12. And I don't know how many 6th graders are coming into that program. But you could continue on the way you're doing it. It's the challenge is going to be to try and find somebody who.
But I mean, let's be real with that. I mean, are we gonna find anybody?
I don't know.
Like you mentioned earlier.
I don't know
You're
yet.
gonna have to
I honestly
fundraise, this, that, and the other, and you're on your own to fund it. I mean, I'd tell you to pound sand. And that's just my honest.
Well,
The other thing that's challenging, so
I
if
mean-
we would do this and then we can't find a coach, because I think you have to have someone who actually knows what they're
That's what I
doing.
mean. That's.
Like, you
I don't
can't
know.
just have some random
Yeah.
person who's a
I couldn't
teacher
do
who
that.
wants to get paid more money. Like, that's all I'm saying. I just,
No.
it would feel really
no.
bad to me to not provide them a coach that
the
has the right.
certification is like,
Yes.
in the test that you have to pass,
Okay.
it's pretty intense.
If we funded this, would Bridget stay on, or has she resigned?
I don't know that answer.
Doesn't have to resign because it's not our employee.
Well, I mean, not resign.
We don't know
And
because of
be
that.
done.
You know what I mean,
Right.
Scott?
And I don't know, I mean.
Mr. Mayor, can I just chime in real quick too? The other thing that, just with this whole, the fact that it's a state sanctioned sport and right now Bridget has to do everything as far as schedules, as far as paying all her dues, writing her own checks for all of that stuff. I mean, my understanding, Mr. M, correct me if I'm wrong, that's not the way it's supposed to be done. The way we're doing it right now does not live up to what the State High School League says we should do. Even, I mean,
Like,
the
we
way,
could,
like, they do have their money in an agency account now, but that's still supposed to be a trust and agency, right? Not?
Those are separate accounts. Those are-
Separate?
No, those are not trust and agency accounts.
Okay, so separate.
They're their own, it's
Yep.
just like every other sport, it's their own checking account, your name is just on it.
Okay,
so it'd be
separate from
okay to
trust
have a
agency.
club sport here as long as it wasn't a sanctioned sport, but because it is,
Nope.
what?
Nope.
What do you mean, no?
A sanctioned sport is no longer a club sport, period.
No, I know, but I'm saying if it isn't sanctioned, you can have a club sport, but once it becomes sanctioned,
then you
then
can't
you
run it as a
should
club sport.
pull the
You're not
program
supposed to.
across
It's
and be
supposed to
sanctioned, is what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But they can't compete as a,
Yeah, so
Activity
you're saying that
association
in other
without the name.
schools, it's a sanctioned sport just like it is here, but we're operating as a club, when in reality, she shouldn't be having to do all of those things.
Correct.
Yeah, other schools, the coach doesn't have to do all that,
Right.
because it's sanctioned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Spot on. So, no decision has to be made tonight,
I
but
feel like
it's
that.
it's certainly something that's gonna have to come back, that, you know, when that answer is given to us, I suspect, then, you know, how are we going to proceed? So,
When we started that, or when they started that club, was gymnastics a sanctioned sport?
That's why they came to us. They wanted to be able to compete at the state level. And in order to be, they had needed our
Okay,
okay and to be able to use our name in the
Sure.
Activities Association.
so they had to be attached to a school
They had
to do it. I feel like that
Otherwise they're
says
going
it
to
in
Omaha and
itself,
everything
just
else.
that the fact that it's a sanctioned sport, we really should be, I mean, they already have programs, so why would we not
It's not like we're
support
creating a
it?
new program.
Right, they
I
already
mean,
have it, we just have to
I mean,
take it over and pay the
We're just
4,000.
creating
I don't
new
know.
costs.
And-
And sometimes,
No,
you know,
and
and I'm just saying for my job, you know, you look back at, we've added HOSA, we've added FFA, we've added Ed Rising, we've added,
I know, when
and
does it
nothing ever
stop?
goes away.
No, I don't, and I agree,
But there's only one way to gain money. Kids.
No, exactly, and if this causes 3 kids to leave our district every 4 years, or I mean, what is the true cost? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there too.
Mhm.
Would that happen?
Might.
I don't know. Once again, I mean, we've talked about different, you know, things we want to add to our high school to make it more aesthetically pleasing. Well, hey, I mean, when people are looking at Parkson versus Ethan versus Korska versus Mitchell, I mean,
Not to put a price on a student, but how much does a student cost you? Can you remind me?
It's around $6,000. It all depends on.
In a year?
Because it's
between 6 and 7,
yeah.
Okay.
that number, because
So
it's a
if you
student to
lose
teacher
3
ratio.
students because you don't have a
Yeah.
program, I mean, that's
If you lose one-
$18,000.
If you lose
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
If you
well,
lose
if you have
one-
3, it's
If
18,000,
you
that
lose
is
one,
what
you're
you're
money
saying.
behind.
Yeah,
Truly, a year. you
yeah.
know. So I mean,
You're already 2,000 short.
I don't know. it's a.
I would say, if I can chime in, is $4,000 for a program is kind of, it's a pretty good deal. You know what I'm saying? To have another opportunity, another offering that you can hang your hat, that you offer to students for that amount, that's considerably better than, say, you look at adding other sports like softball or baseball coming so much. This will be pennies compared to what that would probably be.
Well, that's exactly my point, because if we
Do this.
go ahead with this, we're going to have the next 3.
We do not have a softball club in town, correct? We just
Not
play
in the
city
spring.
sports for softball.
Yeah, your summer program, that's
Right.
your club.
But we have a baseball club.
But
Yeah.
I don't know if they have a club.
Well, they
season
play
for
a
softball is what
season
I'm
in the
saying.
spring.
Right, yeah, they don't have a club.
Not
They don't have
anymore.
a
Now
club
that's
season
sanctioned,
for
but
softball though, right now.
There was
Like-
spring softball, or there's not anymore, or was it fall softball, one of the two? There was a, just like how there's spring baseball and then there's Legion
Mhm.
baseball, you know, there's summer softball and then there was a second softball season in
Mhm.
the fall that is now done because of the sanctioned softball that's now coming in
And that will, when will that season be?
That's
the spring.
starting.
It, softball will be a spring season.
Softball will be.
Okay.
At our level, and I think it was proposed that the A level, we would be B.
Correct.
A level was supposedly being in the fall, but I think they didn't split it up and made at least in its first year of inception, which, talk about a year to start softball. Because by God's grace, we may have a game. Or whoever playing the sport may have a game with a state tournament in Aberdeen the first week of June. But both classes. So there'll be A, which is all your, what we normally affiliate as double A schools, and then the rest of them are in B. So
Well,
it's
they're still
A,
double A.
A and B. Excuse me?
There's still a double A,
It is a double A and A then?
yeah.
Or is they, what are they calling this level?
We would be class B based on our.
There's not 3 levels.
Yeah. There are,
Double A,
yep,
and then an A level,
yep,
and then a B level.
yep.
Well, I misunderstood that.
Yeah, I don't know if originally that was the plan, but I was just reading up on it today.
Okay.
There are the 3 levels.
But anyway, that's, you would be in those, if we would be in the A category then.
We would be B, because it's 139
Oh,
is the top for the 9 through 11 enrollment.
I don't know where you draw the line in the sand and say we're no longer adding any more programs. I don't know. I don't even know if that's something that you would even venture to put on paper, because every situation is so different that you would want to at least have the conversation every time something like that, I think, is broached or it's brought to your attention for a board per request. So I'm not suggesting anybody's doing that or saying that, but I certainly understand Matt's perspective on it, Jed's perspective on it. I'm trying to keep my biases out of it because I have one, so. But I don't know that the necessity for a decision, and having talked to those other two superintendents, they were gonna talk about it tonight at their school board meetings and see where that went for them as well. They felt that that number of $4,000 per school is something that they could support. They felt that their boards would support, moving forward. If the necessity from an agreement perspective, it needs to be more defined. It needs to have all the stipulations outlined in it, like you suggested, Jed, that, so what happens if this or what happens if that, so you don't find yourself in a situation where you're upside down on something. What did we get ourselves into? The greatest component of this two things would be if you got in large numbers, one, transportation to practice, or the investment of equipment. If that's what it really came to. So you need a beam, you need a vault, you need a floor, and you need a set of bars. And then you need all the padding and everything else that goes into that. So the capital expense of adding a program to that level certainly within cause concern and cause angst, in doing that. And that, I think, when you go back that many years ago, that was probably the concern at the time, and not wanting to say no to somebody, which...
Or just have the facility to be able to host practices.
For sure.
One thing about the travel, Mr. M, golf is similar because they go to Mitchell a lot to practice. We do not provide travel for them to practice up there.
And that's what I was gonna say, like, if our practicing happens in Mitchell, I don't see it a necessity for us to pay their way to go to practice. That's just my opinion.
Do we provide, for those internships,
Yeah.
Mr. Knipling, we don't provide transportation to and from internships, correct? I mean, that's just their responsibility, and they're knowing that if I'm gonna do this, that's something I have to.
Well, and I don't know that the current people involved in the program, because they're used to operating under that premise anyway. I told you, me included, put Ada in there and take them up there, And you got various levels, and she and another gal are the only girls that can drive, so, yeah, whatever. I mean, I think there's room for compromise there if the number's too big. What that looks like, that is representation, the $2,000 for their gym rental fees, that was an increased cost. That's not what she's paying this year.
That already took into consideration.
I did,
right?
I mean, I
That's what
asked her,
thought.
do you see that, do you perceive that to increase? And she said, I think so.
So they pay for two different gyms to practice?
Yes. They'll go to Mega and Core. Mega one day, Core the next.
Why is that?
It's
Just because they don't have the space?
Because those are private businesses, and you wanna be entertained someday, just go into Mega about 4 o'clock one day and see what that's like.
But I'm just saying they just can't give us the opportunity to practice there 5 days a week at one of them.
It's a private business.
And if they did, would the price be increased? So essentially, if we practice 5 days a week, might it be 4,000?
Oh, way more
For
than that.
one of them?
Because
versus-
the reason is, Jill, you got 100 kids down on those doors every day, and they're from 5 years old to
Sure. Yeah, I'm just curious why there's two gyms.
They don't close down the gym for the practice?
Nope. Nope, it's,
So this is kind of during their downtime. So you notice their time of practice
bit.
is not normal.
if you look at the later date of the time start on that, so. But So we've taken more time than anticipated. You know, we can bring it back. We can see the answer from those other two school districts are, but, you know, and then we can maybe have some clarity too as to leadership, so. If that's okay. So I guess, you know, if anything you can do there is table it for now.
Well,
Okay.
it's just a discussion item.
It
wasn't
is
an
just
action item.
discussion.
So we don't even need to have a motion
You
to
don't
table,
have to.
unless you want to. I mean, there's no action that, it wasn't an action item, right?
No, it's a
No,
discussion.
it's a discussion
Yeah.
item.
I mean, I personally would like to see what the other schools, I suppose, before we make maybe a rash decision, see what their thoughts are, but I think it should definitely be, talked about next meeting.
With a decision. I mean, they
With a
have to
decision.
know, because we are
Exactly.
gonna need to,
Did our current coach give you any, you know, hey, I would like to know by this time, or was it, I mean,
No.
okay, okay. But yeah, I think we should.
okay, so we'll put it on the next agenda for the
I can do that.
April? Jeez, that's crazy, April meeting. Okay. All right, we'll move to the next thing then. G is discuss 5-year capital outlay quotes. School board will review the 5-year capital outlay plan and the quotes received to determine prioritization of projects to be completed this summer.
So, we put all that information in your packets. Craig and I sat down last couple of days and put some high-fly numbers together, one of the totality of some of this stuff. I guess I'll entertain, it's in your packets, information, questions on any of what you see, something there that like, do we have to do that, or we shouldn't do that, or the necessity of some of this stuff? I mean, what are your questions after potentially looking at it? One thing, actually two. If we could do, we need to do something with Mr. Knipling's bathrooms in that end down there. Those are beyond bad. That needs to be fixed. And then the floor scrubber would be the other component. You know,
have one of those ready or we don't?
we do.
We do.
But it's on its last leg. We're nurse
12 years old?
12, yeah, I think so, 12.
So this was already done? Or this is more to come?
That's the new bid for the rest of the terrazzo
Okay.
in the
But we
gym
already
space.
agreed to that, right, or no?
Excuse me?
Didn't we already agree to that?
No.
No, we just didn't know the amount of what was the deal.
So the part that we had Weidenbach Construction come in and do that front entrance there last
Yeah,
summer and early fall, we got the bill for that, and the comparative as far as the square foot, that bid that you have in there for another, what,
30-some.
12,000 square foot though?
oh yeah.
It was 16,000. That 16,000 square foot, or excuse me, yeah, 1,600 square foot bid from a year ago was
47.
was the exact amount of what Weidenbach billed us for what they did. So there was no cost savings there
Per square foot.
per square foot.
This is something we need to do though, right? Because the floor is
Man,
issues,
you
right?
can leave holes in it if you want, I guess.
No, no, there's no hole in the floor. I mean, come on, really?
So would we
Whoa.
just start where we stopped and keep going and
Yeah.
leave what was done
Yeah,
there?
just leave what was done, I would suggest. We thought maybe it would be a price point where that, in a product we could live with that, and as it turned out, it was not that.
And this, I saw somewhere it said moisture barrier for the terrazzo, and they're confident in that.
That was the problem that we've discovered from the last time, that there was none.
But now it's included.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the one we have to do, pretty much, is what I'm feeling like, because
We have two more holes, yeah.
Yeah, so we have to do this, okay.
It's crumbling
Yeah,
in,
okay, so that's a yes, and then you
Spaces.
said the bathroom needs to be done,
yeah.
so that's a yes, right?
Does that terrazzo include the bathrooms then too?
It'll go up to the water fountain. It does not go into the bathroom area.
And those can hold off for
I
a while?
think so, yeah.
And this is goes together, what's the difference here? Oh, these are two different,
Those are both scrubbers,
two different
two different
prices.
companies, yep. And while it's not apples to apples on those two scrubbers, they're pretty darn close. I mean, the amount of what you're gonna pay for one versus the other.
Mhm. And they're both good brands and,
Oh, yeah, we brought them, they brought them both in. One company brought theirs in, the other company brought theirs in. They got to ride around on them, they were scrubbing and this, that, and the other, so. Craig and I don't know that we have a little dog
equal
in the
to one
fight.
another,
Yeah.
they're like the exact
We
same
asked them-
almost.
Less than $1,000, right around $1,000.
We told those guys to pick because they're the ones using it.
So what they pick?
The one that they suggested was, I believe, the Hilliard one.
This is the
yes.
one they liked more, or, okay,
They have pros and cons about each,
okay. I'm just trying to
so, yep.
figure out in my mind where
And,
things go.
Carpet slash rug, that was a comparison, the way I took it?
So, yep, I mean, this document that you see here that looks like this, so those are for the vestibules, those are just your entryways in the double door situations type of deal. So the exact square footage is not apples to apples with the innovative and the carpet, but this is a mat.
Yeah.
This will not be adhered.
Yeah.
It can come in and come out, and you have the mat that you see, and when you walk into the armory, the Parkston mat, it's supposed to have a different texture to it. It's supposed to be a little bit more durable, a heavier grain to it, a heavier grit to it. It's going to capture more. And the cleanup on both of them is nothing more than a shampooer and whatever. The innovative quote that you see there is adhered carpet, actual carpet. And they both have a moisture barrier, the mats as well as this product, that it's not penetrable. You cannot get water behind underneath of it.
And this would be for the same area?
This bid, which this did not include,
Okay.
was right out here from glass door all the way across the trophy cases, right sit out front of this office, all the way to the other glass door, where this was not that. But then the other vestibules were the same.
So this one is like tacked down or something, and this
This
one
is
is
adhered.
removable?
This is
one-
it here.
And this one can move around?
This is just gonna sit in your vestibules.
Uh-huh.
And the need for out here, I assume, is kids coming in and out, snow on the floor, or
It-
always wet.
Slippery?
It's,
The rug's always pushed
Yeah.
it's a mess.
one way or the other from people walking or
From one end of that doorway to the other doorway over there, from east to west, it's like, I mean, it can turn into a skating rink and a swimming pool, especially at this time of the year. Because I watched it.
So currently, this is what we have? Something like
Something
this?
similar, but this is supposed to be a more viable, thicker, durable carpet. And this becomes a backing on it too that is not penetrable
Okay.
with water. The difference is that is not adhered,
Yeah,
this is adhered.
So there's still gonna, if it's not adhered, there's still be water getting down maybe on the sides and getting underneath.
Good.
Basically. With those ones that aren't stuck down, in the vegetables for sure. But you can remove it and clean it easier too.
And the shampoo, and I know that a considerable difference in pricing for sure. I see
yeah,
that.
yep.
So,
Now, Pat, when you did those other, but did you include, like down at the far, let's say go all the way south out those doors, did that carpet one include some outside of the vegetables too, didn't it?
yeah, so that's.
Where those carpets are currently?
So all
that's
of
why.
here, that's my fault. So let's just go to the south end down here. You
little
come
bit- little
in
bit
the
more.
glass doorways,
money.
and then you come in, that there would be carpet down to the first classroom door.
Kind of where the mat is now,
Yes, exactly. It
we
replaces
got
the mat that
rugs
exists there now.
in those spots,
So this
especially on the
one,
elementary end.
that one, we didn't do anything with the high school east wing because of the remodel.
There's probably just the two down there,
And then it was
because there was nothing on this one.
on the east and west wing
Yep,
to the classroom too.
yep.
And then the
That lunchroom
the
doors, yep.
lunchroom door.
Inside those doors when you come in.
If you took a hard left, you go right into the kitchen there. That's where a lot of the kids come in now from the parking lot. But that would go up to the Trojan Den door. There would be a chunk of carpet from Innovative that would be catch-all, so they wouldn't track that down the hallway too. But
So that's what I mean, there's more than just the run out here. That's, you know what I mean, for
yeah, I
the dollar.
forgot that that
I
was.
thought you had told me that, that's why,
Yeah, my fault. So
when you see in the price comparison.
Yeah, it
there's
was
a-
like a no-brainer.
There's a little bit more spots than just right out here.
So then all of these that are after the shop upgrade, is that the electric piece, all of these
yeah, so
go
everything after
together?
the shop as can do with all of your shop.
Like all of this?
Yep, that's all equipment.
Yeah,
Jed can probably speak to that stuff better than I can as to what's what in the shop stuff. Because Jed helped me with some of that stuff, and I was unsuccessful in my grant that I put. I got some feedback from the Department of Ed. They clarified as to why I didn't. They said next time, I'll work with them the next round that it comes to be more specific, and they will help me write the grant to be more successful with that. So the shop, I don't know that there's a necessity there. I've talked to Mrs. Ackerman about getting her certification. Mr. Schoenfelder, you can speak to that better than I can as to what she needs to.
We're actually looking at putting on a July 10th through the 13th, or I think it's July 10th through the 13th.
So she be AW, what is it?
She'd be AWS certified, and I believe that gives her welding endorsement.
It
for-
does.
For secondary.
Yep, because I asked Department of Ed, they said if you have
And she
that.
went through the training last time. This
Yep.
time I could gear it more toward a process, and then basically she becomes AWS certified, and then she can teach the
With-
career cluster.
With
welding.
her certification, then what that allows you to do, back to Mr. Knipling's component, we could now then add manufacturing as a CTE program under our other CTE umbrellas, because now she does FFA, but now she's actually certified to be a manufacturing component too, so.
what do we actually use the shop for right now?
She does classwork
Yep.
out there.
Woodwork-
She
more
does
woodworking stuff.
woodworking,
Okay.
Some welding.
electrical
She's got kind
stuff.
of welding pushback to the
Okay.
corner. She
She's
does
got
it from
she's
time
got
to
an ag
time.
mechanics class that goes on.
Yeah, they
Okay.
got small engines in there.
Oh,
They
okay.
do some
She
woodworking,
would-
they build.
She would really like to move forward on the welding component to become, because she recognizes too, like MDS out here. And then if you look at Mitchell and what everything has transpired in Mitchell, that we could become a better pipeline for not locally as well as, going that direction too. But so the whole shop upgrade, the first page is what was the budget page that I had submitted to Department of Ed. So that's what the components were. The rest of that stuff,
And they will not help this year? We did not get
we
what
did not
applied
get the
for?
grant exactly. Yeah.
And you're gonna reapply next year then, or what?
Yep, there's actually one workforce grant that I'm looking at right now. I need to talk to the Department of Ed that maybe has a better shot at maybe obtaining some of the equipment.
Okay,
Um,
so should we kind of table this
Well, I was
one
gonna
for
say
now?
before, Mr. Schoenfelder, speak to the last pages that you see there about those standalone arms, the ones with the arms that are ventilators that you can weld on. Can you speak to what those are?
We actually have one at Mitchell Tech that was donated by, I don't really have that page unless I'm losing my mind here. Oh, it's sitting right here, I think. We have some just like this, one of them just like this. We really don't use it in our shop because we've got mechanical ventilation in our ceiling that works very well.
You don't have the necessity then.
No, we don't, and to be honest with you, I'd have to talk to my administration and whatnot, but I mean, if we're not using it, and the person, and if Hendrickson, our company that donated it, if they're fine with it, we would definitely be willing to see if you guys could get it. You know, but they work quite well. I mean, for a smaller shop, well, you can use maybe 2 of them in there, depending on how many welding booths you have. This right here, in the large scope of things, would be much more efficient than maybe putting, ventilation obviously in the ceiling, because you're losing all that warm air.
Right.
Unless you're having a warm air return of some sort, I think this would be the way to go, especially if you're just doing smaller welding sections.
Right.
Maybe you're, have however many students in the class,
Yeah.
8, 10, whatever, it'd just be way more efficient.
spots for the 3 welding tables back
Yeah,
there.
yeah. And,
Well, and I think you could take that stuff out of there. You could fit 4 of
Maybe
those
4.
machines back there, I think, maybe, if not 5, maybe. But the only thing that I would say, maybe if we want to pursue something like that, it's this estimate from Parkson Electric for the wiring. Because right now, I don't think you could plug one of those in back there. I'd have to go look. You would know better than I do.
It might be
Jim.
240. I don't know. Yeah, probably not.
But if you're applying for a grant, wouldn't we want to wait to see what that would
Good, yeah,
entail?
for sure, would be able, yeah.
And then decide how to move forward with this?
Were arc welders, so those would be 240.
Maybe 240, yeah.
Yeah, so, unless they changed all that, but.
And it really depends what type of process you're doing. Like if you're doing stick welding, obviously that's a smokier process than like GMAW or wire feed welding. There's- It depends.
Well, it's supposed to be
So
aligned to
that's-
industry standards, so I suspect of, doing arc, it's probably, it's a skill, right? But, you're doing probably more gas metal.
Yes, most of the time, yep, it just depends, like, at Mitchell Tech, obviously, we teach pipe welding and that sort of things. But, here at the local level at Parkson High School, I think that wire feed welding or GMAW would be more of a skill that the students would easier to build projects with, yeah. And I think it just kind of
Does that prepare them for the industry that
Oh,
they're
without a doubt.
going into?
Without a doubt, yes. We're right next to one of the larger manufacturing hubs in the tri-state area, Mitchell.
So, Craig, go ahead.
The TIGs would be a little bit overboard for here, don't you think?
There's different companies that use them. You got AKG.
As far as a introductory to.
Yeah, the machine on there that I really, really like is that 210 MP. What that machine allows you to do is it allows you to wire feed weld, it allows you to stick weld, and it also allows you to scratch start for TIG welding. So you can do all the processes except for TIG weld aluminum.
Sure.
So, in my opinion, bang for buck, and that's one of the, I won't say cheaper machines on there, but less expensive machines. But your bang for buck with that machine is a lot. It's gonna, obviously the duty cycle's only like 60%, but that only means within a 10-minute time scope, you can only weld 6 minutes with it, which is more than efficient for, or more than acceptable for welding at the high school level.
But you bring up a great point, Jill. If given the opportunity to explore this workforce education grant that has just come out here last week, look all the details of that over to see where do we fit into that picture and get hold of somebody Department of Ed that maybe it's more aligned to what we want to do, something like this. But in the event that they don't, it doesn't fit, the upgrade from Parkson Electric, welding electrical upgrade, for 6,400, and then one of those machines that Mr. Schofield just said, I think it's the XA, is it the 20, which one is
The
it?
210 MP.
Yeah, the 210, yeah. Then, to invest in something like that, maybe that's, what we do.
Maybe 210.
I can certainly bring that component of it back.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Okay, so Craig, how much, just remind me, like when we're looking at all these projects and how much money they are and so on and so forth, obviously we can't do everything all at once, so how much money is out there that we have to work with that we
Depends on
can?
what happens tomorrow.
It does.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well,
We're just showing you the list tonight.
Okay,
What we're getting quotes for and stuff like that. We don't, you guys have never seen this type of list before. We've never brought it to you. We're just kind of showing you what the projects have, what we're looking at for upcoming year. I can't give you that number yet because we won't know until after tomorrow.
okay, so we can talk about it in April then for sure, what
Oh,
we'll decide
definitely.
with?
Yep, yep.
Okay. I'm
But
sorry,
we're
I
just telling
thought
you
you
for sure,
wanted
like,
an
the
answer
bathrooms need to
tonight.
be done, that terrazzo floor needs to be done, because there's holes in it. Those
Okay.
are obviously top priority
So can we
things.
Or we could-
approve those tonight and then move forward with other programs
I don't
if
know
we
the-
wanted to?
You approve it when you approve the budget.
Or can we
You can
move?
just give us the blessing to go.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean, whatever.
Advantages.
But I mean, none of this is gonna happen till the summer.
I mean, if we know we have
I mean,
to do
that
them, why
bathroom
would we
stuff
not just
is-
move forward with them and, right?
Why don't we wait till our special meeting? Maybe we incorporate that into the
Good.
special meeting because then we'll have some Bible numbers.
So I can't give you a number right now.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
The total of this all, I think, what did we come up with, Mr. M? 170,000, I think, total for all of these projects.
I mean, everything we put in front of you
Combined.
did it, that's what you would
Yep,
cost right now.
yep. And that includes the scoreboard one that you
At
had
the end
left.
of the package.
Yeah, that you didn't. And then what?
Your roof repairs, I
Roof
think
repairs,
that's a
yep.
no-brainer. And we talked about that one component of 5,000, because that came out of your $800 yearly inspection. And we knowing that it was gonna happen this summer. And then that other component of there, I don't know why we would put the one row of snow retention above those whirlybirds. So it ripped off 12, the snow ripped off 12 off the roof in the high school end, the vents, I call it a whirlybird. 12 of them got ripped off.
And we're on the ground.
Well, some of them were still hanging on, some were there, some of them were gone. But when it started melting stuff and we started having water issues, well, we didn't know because it was under 3 foot of snow up there. Well, there was no snow rail that was gonna prevent that. It wasn't like it melted and slid down and tore it off. It was buried under 3 foot of snow. So I wasn't gonna I wouldn't expend the $2,600 to put snow rail up there because it didn't do you any good anyway. And there was once in a, when the last time you had 26.5 inches of snow at once? I don't think you ever have you?
Let's not talk about it because it could
I
happen
say we
again.
hope it's not a common. We hope it's not something that's.
Don't we have one of these in the gym already? But it's just on the other side?
Doesn't work.
Oh, okay.
Tony can speak to that. So
Okay.
too.
Doesn't work like we have to take it down and throw
The
it
stat
away or
board.
just have
Yeah.
to move it?
The problem with your stats board is it's already 20-some years old, and
Oh.
the software that goes with it is outdated.
Okay.
And just to update the software, there's a little toggle that you plug into your laptop that gives you the communication with the
Uh-huh.
software. That itself is $1,200, and then you gotta get the software and.
Which was like 3 or 4 or
Yeah,
something like that,
you're-
wasn't it?
you're-
The last
I
time we
mean, I
looked
have
into that.
software.
And you're making a 20-year-old board functional.
Can I just draw attention to the score on this scoreboard? Because I've never seen this score in basketball in the history of ever in the school. 101 to 87, really? Okay, who were we playing when this happened?
Clearly never gotten any third grade boys back.
Just curious. That's good.
And just so you know, this quote was, Mr. Yost did this a couple years back. What was it, 3, Mr. Fisher? 2 or 3?
The year before I got here, so yeah, 3 years ago.
And it's when, what did they tell you it went up?
$2,500.
$2,500 since then, to do the exact same thing. That he tried to do, or, you know, that we looked at possibly doing. The last time, I think, that's when I remember the $4,000, Tony, was probably back then, and then,
But this is the new price that you gave us, right? The new quote, yeah, okay. Okay, all right, well,
I know I've been approached by several people at games about the stat board wanting
to have that up
to
there.
have that.
and it would just be on one of the 2 ends. This is the price for one.
It'd be on the north end, right, Adam?
No.
This south
We're gonna put it on the
end.
south end.
With the,
This picture, opposite of this picture.
He's talked about if you walk in and have that as kind of a focal point.
Sure.
oh, sure.
Is otherwise you gotta
The
walk
picture
in, turn your
depicts
head
it on
and
the
look
north
up.
end.
Okay,
Correct.
gotcha,
Yep, that's
gotcha.
correct.
Okay.
The picture here doesn't demonstrate where we would propose to put it
Okay,
sideways.
all right, any other discussion about that? Okay, we will move to discussion item H, which is April board meeting date. Discuss moving the April meeting due to the current date coinciding with Easter holiday break.
Anybody got any issues? I mean, it's Easter Monday, going on board meeting, everybody's good. I just wanted to make sure that somebody was on a vacation or something like that because of the Easter break. So, okay, that's all I needed on that.
Everybody good with that?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. So we will move to action items. Action item A is approved financial report.
That's your gold sheet.
Yes, any questions on that? Still holding pretty good, I think. From when you compare the gold sheet to the prior years, the bottom.
How is the school lunch thing working?
Now, so I did call on that and asked the state to make sure I was doing it right, because I was like, we still collect the federal reimbursement. So, and I asked her, I go, do I still claim these? She goes, yes. So that's why, I mean, it went down a little bit, but not as much as you probably would think because of that.
Do you foresee us wanting to increase them day, or are we?
We're still doing 2 days right now.
Yeah, increase to a third?
I did not do the numbers to how much a day would cost. Sorry, I did not.
No,
But I could do that for next Monday.
I mean, is it something we need to burn that down more and or faster, do you think, or not?
Well,
You just got another 22,000.
What are these?
yeah, thanks.
Where are the funds coming from? Are these extra funds coming that you're talking about? Or federal funds? That's just.
No, that's something we always do.
Yeah.
The federal reimbursement.
Okay.
But I still seek the federal reimbursement, even though, for
Right.
those meals, even though we're not charging for them, because that's what the state lady
Oh,
told
okay,
me.
okay.
I didn't think you did, because that would make it go down a lot faster when you're taking another 2 days out of the week. We're still getting federal reimbursements to those, because we get federal reimbursement on a paid meal,
Yeah,
reduced meal, and
yeah,
free meal.
yeah, okay.
Paid meal is only like 30-some cents a meal or something, 40-some cents a meal, somewhere in that range. I don't know off the top of my head, but then the free one's like 380 something or whatever,
Okay.
reduced to somewhere in between there.
So you'll bring us an amount that would cost to have a third day?
Yeah, I did not do the per day, what it's like actually
Yeah.
saving us. I mean, I know it did
We
go
didn't
down.
think we were gonna seek the federal reimbursement.
I didn't.
So the dollar amount was gonna come down.
I
Now,
thought it was
all of
gonna go down a lot faster
When you
than it
submit
did.
it, now you're still getting money back.
So I still
Yeah.
got about 10,000 in federal reimbursement for last month.
Okay.
Now, granted, that was probably 15,000 before. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I can do that for Monday, though.
Okay, sounds good.
Sounds great.
Anything
The
else?
ladies do have some things they want to get, too.
Yeah, no, we talked,
Just,
yeah.
I mean, Lisa, being new next year and stuff, she has talked to me about a few things, so.
No. Sounds good.
Okay. Not that it's gonna cost that much, but. Anything else? Okay, need a motion to approve?
So
I'll second it.
Moved by Schoenfelder and seconded by Nebel. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
All right, we'll move to action item B, offer contracts to certified, classified, and administration staff for 23-24 school year. The school board will consider offering contracts to staff with the issuance to come after negotiations have been completed and salary and benefits for 23-24 school year have been established and agreed upon.
essentially what you're saying there is just through a motion that they'll get a contract. That's all it is.
Okay, need a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion. Second.
Moved by Turner and seconded by Leishner to offer the contracts to the administrative certified and classified staff for the FY 23-24 school year. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
Before we adjourn back to Monday's meeting, if it would work to move it up to like 4 o'clock, I think I could make it. If that is doable for everybody else, if not, I'll just call in.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
Okay, I'll just call it in, that's fine.
Sorry.
No, that's,
Okay. All right, we will take a short recess and go into executive session.
And we're doing 6:30 on Monday, right?
Yep,
Yes,
Okay.
so we'll come back at 8:45-ish.